What's up, people? Welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark. Today is episode 4 of season 3, and I got my good friend Joey Landreth on. Joey, thanks for hanging out again. This is your second appearance.
Come on, such a pleasure.
Yeah, man. There you go. You got that J.J. Abrams like twinkle on you.
Right before I left the house, the baby was just mucking it. It is what it is, guys. That's baby.
It's fine. You look angelic. So I was telling Joey like right before this, but it's been a year since I started doing this show, and Joey was kind enough to be my first guest on this crazy adventure. And I cannot believe that it's still going on. And Terry's in here, my buddy Terry, who does all the art and stuff and has helped me out tremendously as well. Big ups to Terry. But I want to take a quick second, Joe, before we jump in, just to say a lot of people may have not heard me say this, and I've said this to you directly, but I feel like getting to know you and like hearing your music and like starting on the path that I went on with guitar and us, you working with me on slide and stuff, like you literally saved my musical life.
Oh, man.
Because I was at a point a couple years ago, because we've probably known each other now since like 2015, I think is when we first did a lesson.
I think so. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Around then. So I was about to just quit everything and just be like, I'm done with this nonsense. It's like, it's too much of a hustle. No one cares. When you play music in a bar, people are there to drink. They're not there to listen to music. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And just like learning to play the instrument in a different way, in a different tuning, really saved me from doing that, man. Saved me from quitting. So like I 100% have you to thank for that.
Oh, man. Jeez.
Yeah. So but yeah, man. So mushy stuff aside, I'm so excited to hang out. And like just a year later, and literally, dude, I think it's like this week, a year ago is when we did it.
Yeah, I think that's right. Because was I in this space when we did it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have, just because I just had my 1-year anniversary in the studio.
Yeah.
So yeah. That makes sense.
Full freaking circle, man.
Circle.
Yeah. So So when I asked you to do this, I originally wanted to do like an episode where we could talk about all the stupid stuff that we bought during quarantine or were sent during quarantine that we like maybe didn't expect to love as much as we did, or stuff that we like wanted to get that we're like, whoa, this is like going to be so great to use when I get back to playing live. So I wanted to start there, but I also wanted to talk to you about some other stuff so we can keep the gear nerdiness short, because I have some other stuff I wanted to talk to you about.
Okay, great.
But so like, here's my my one piece of gear this past year that like actually I'm super shocked that I really love, because I've bought, and I think I've told you this, but I've bought and sold so many delay pedals. So many delay pedals. And Terry knows this. We talk about this all the time. But man, like Zach's Oracle, I don't think I'm ever going to sell that, dude. Like it does exactly what my simple mind needs for delay. So I'll start there, and you can dive in now.
What did I buy? What pedal? Well, probably the biggest pandemic purchase I made was these 2 organs here. I can totally like John Lord back here. Both, but I started with, my camera's backwards for me. I started with this guy over here, the M3. I found it on Kijiji, which is the like Canadian version of Craigslist. So I found it on Kijiji for $100, and I reached out to the guy and I said, "Hey, so you want $100 for this thing? Like, does it work?" And he was like, "Doesn't even turn on." But I think he thought I was going to try and talk him down, because he was like, honestly, like, if you don't want it, I'm just going to hack it for parts. And I was like, no, dude, I'll take it for $100. No problem. Yeah, I'll give you $100 right now. I will send you the $100 right this minute, and I will come and pick it up with my 2 friends, and we'll come and pick it up right now. And it needed a bunch of work, so I wound up putting almost $1,000. Actually, no, I did. I put $1,100 into it. So it's a $1,200 organ. But it's basically the story of the M3 is it's like a smaller version. It's a different guts. It's a spin it organ, but it's basically has the same tone generators tone generator as a B3. So it's got a lot of very similar sounds to a B3, but in a smaller. It's only 300 pounds instead of 600 pounds. So that became like my big project. I just fell in love with playing the organ, and then eventually the baby B3 turned into a real B3, which I also found on Kijiji, but it was in Calgary, which for those who don't know Canadian geography, it's a 16-hour drive from where I live. But the guy was like, I want a Fender Blackface trade for this Hammond organ. I was like, all right. I got your number, buddy. What kind of Fender Blackface are you after? Is it just one with 112? It's like, okay, I got one. Like, this is what it is. This is what I actually was going to trade him. I actually was like, I don't have what you're looking for, but I have something I believe to be better. It was my Brownface concert, because I have 2 Brownface amps and I don't use the concert very much. And he agreed, and then halfway through he decided he just wanted money. And anyway, so I drove to Calgary and bought the organ, and so now I have 2 organs, which I can only play one. I can really only play one, and I can really only barely play it. But it is just such a great joy. I love playing it so much. Do
you have one of them fired up?
Yeah, I do.
Let's play some.
Oh God,
I want to hear it. Like, cause how did you get into like fixing? Like, did you just buy a book and like how did you know how to fix the M3?
Well, the M3 needed real work. So I hired somebody to Ryan Voth, the drummer from the Brothers Landreth. His dad is like a tech guru around town, and he did like the heavy lifting work. I did a bunch of modifications to it, but the actual like get it back up and running, I left to a professional. And then same thing with the C3. I've done a bunch of mods to it as well. But it's all like, go in and rewire this wiring harness and move these wires here. It's nothing like super crazy. But okay, well, it is fired up.
I want to hear it growl.
Woo! I don't really growl. I mostly just kind of do this kind of stuff. That's kind of it, really. And all realistically, I just mostly play stuff like. Yeah, so it's just a lot of chords, not a lot of soloing. I did a session yesterday, and somebody was like, "Can you give me like a big?" And I was like, "The best I can do is a." So if you want a big, you will have to call someone who knows how to do that.
Oh man, it sounds amazing, dude. Like, I mean, with your knowledge of harmony and everything, it's probably like figuring out how to play that stuff. Because I mean, obviously, there's technique to playing B3 where you have to know, holding that high note, moving the harmony underneath of it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like, I bet you it came pretty naturally to you, right? Like with your harmony knowledge.
I mean, yeah. It made me start to listen differently. Like it made me kind of pay more attention to what organ players are doing on records, and just really kind of like there is because it's got infinite sustain, but it also has zero ambient. Like it's just on and off. You kind of have to use the volume pedal to get any kind of sort of dynamic. You can't play it the way you would play a piano. Like there's, if you take your finger off that's it. And so you really do have to kind of plan your movements, and it kind of slows you down in a way. I mean, obviously people fly on that thing, but um, it's such an amazing instrument, and you can do so much with it. You can get so many different sounds out of it, and I've played all the Hammond on our new record, and it's just like it's like my favorite thing to do, and it's really simple. Like I'm not changing the world with the way that I play Hammond, but it's such a joy, and you just have to you just kind of have to almost resign to not having the chops and just kind of rely on, like, this is something that we probably talked about like over the course of hanging out and talking music, but like you kind of have to use what you know to fill in the blanks for the stuff that you don't know. So like I don't know, I'm not super great in all 12 keys. Like there's some keys that, like, I had to play on a song yesterday in the key of A, and it's like should not be a hard key to play in, but it's just tough, especially with having to like hold keys down and reach around and grab stuff, and I don't have big hands, so it's like it's a tough key to play in. So I had to really think, okay, what do I need? What do I want? Like this part that I'm playing now needs to be about tone and not necessarily about all the stuff that I would normally reach for in keys that are a little more comfortable. So it just forces you to think differently.
Yeah, I love that.
Man, it's so fun.
I love that. See, that's what you did for me as far as like the guitar stuff. I was saying earlier, like learning how to play in a different like tuning and everything. It was the same way. I had to like totally forget everything that I knew before in standard tuning.
Yeah.
But use that as a template to understand how to play in this tuning, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. But dude, how funny is that? Like I could listen to Bruce Hornsby play all day, and I could listen to like gospel B3 stuff all dang day. Like that's like my favorite stuff. It's like not guitar stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And it's really funny. Sam Freibush is going to be on here in like, I think September. You know about that cat, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm a big fan of his. Yeah.
So he's going to be on here. We're going to talk about B3 and like just his vibe. But man, it's like, that is like one of the coolest instruments I think that exists on this planet. Hands down.
It's the best. It is just the best thing. It's the best thing. It's just like, it gets you in your very soul. And when you hear somebody do it really well, it's like, I mean, obviously like somebody like Corey Henry.
Right. I know you're a big fan of him.
I love the way he plays the Hammond. Like I'm a big fan of his music, but when he plays the Hammond, it's like, obviously that dude can play like anything under the sun. He can play literally anything.
Yeah.
He plays the Hammond. It's just like his incredible chops, of course, but tradition. Like you hear the tradition and the language of gospel music when he plays the organ, and it just cannot be beat in my mind. There's just something so special about that, and I just feel like at the heart of all the things that I love is like there's Corey Henry playing the Hammond organ. That's like, yeah. But which I'll never be able to do. And I did spend like the first part of the pandemic trying to learn one of his tunes, and I got about 8 bars in before I realized, like, oh man, this is never like,
I'm sure you could do it.
Every time I sit down to try and pick something up, but my hands will never do this, because his hands do that because this is his native language, and you just like, you have to start from a young age. I mean, maybe I'm letting myself off the hook because I just don't want to do the work. But the reality is even if I did do all the work, I'd never play like him. So I'm just giving up. I'm just going to play block chords. I'm happy with that.
I mean, I think having that instrument in the studio with you guys and having the ability to like track with that exact instrument instead of like a patch or something like that, there is something different about hearing it through a Leslie. Like even if you play a guitar through a Leslie, way different than playing through a Strymon Lex. 100%. Like,
oh man, and there's something. So like when I first got the M3, one of the mods that was done to it was we installed a line out so that I could use a Leslie simulator, because I had it in my apartment before I had this space, and I didn't want to be divorced. So I knew that running an organ through, or evicted, was just a bad idea to run an organ through a Leslie in an apartment. So I was basically just running it like DI into my console, or into my recording rig, which is fine. But then my buddy Mike Little, who is a great organ player from Calgary, who kind of helped me sort of find all this stuff, and he's taught me a lot. He gifted me a Leslie. He was like, I'm coming to Winnipeg for a session, I got something for you. And it was this Leslie. And the first time I plugged the organ into the Leslie, it was like, oh man, yeah, there's no no contest. Like the Lex does a great job. I have one of the ventilators, the original gray one, and that thing sounds incredible. But like, the thing that's missing is like the ancient tube amp from the 40s or 50s that's grinding to all hell. And it's just like playing through a real guitar amp or a simulated guitar amp. You can feel it right away. On a record, you may not necessarily be able to hear it when it's way back in the mix, but when you play it and you feel like the squish of the notes and you feel it reacting to what you're playing, it's just like, oh man, there's no context. The real Leslie is, you have to do that.
Yeah, it's magic. It's pure magic, dude. Like it really is. I mean, I can't think of another instrument or another thing that I've heard that has touched me so deeply than listening to somebody play like gospel changes on a B3.
Oh
Like,
man, yeah. Like this. This is all I'll be able to do in my life. That's it. That's all I need. I'm happy. That's all I need.
It's so good, Joe. It sounds so good, man.
Okay.
So, all right. So you've been working on that stuff.
Yeah.
I know I saw you like, tweaking some things. I think I don't know if you had pictures or a video of you on Instagram, like poking in there.
Yeah.
So that's been going on, but like guitar gear wise, you've been messing around and tinkering a little bit. So I wanted to talk to you about that.
Yeah. So this is my little device. The last time anybody saw it, it didn't have LEDs, and now it has LEDs.
Oh, look at you, fancy.
I know. They don't quite work the way they're supposed to. So Zach is helping me with that, but it's basically like it's an expression pedal. Yeah. See, that's not even doing what it's supposed to do now. You bugger. Yeah. It's a work in progress. Oh, there we go. This one's working better. Yeah. So okay. It's a work in progress, but I've been messing around on this new record a lot with space around the guitar sound. And, I feel like my guitar playing, in a sense, and I think it's half the organ's fault, but my guitar playing is kind of plateaued in a sense that I'm kind of losing interest with, I mean, this sounds bad, but it's not bad, but I'm just kind of losing interest with working on it. Like I sit down and play, and I don't want to work on guitar. Like I want to work on music, and I want to learn, like I want to, I want to dig deeper into harmony, and I want to learn more, and I want to compose more, but I'm not necessarily super fascinated with like finding new ways to do things on the guitar. So I found myself kind of leaning harder into, and it's not that I'm giving up on the guitar. It's just, I think I'm just kind of like, as a guitar player, this is who I am. This is what I do. I already do my thing. And I'm going to, I'm definitely, hopefully we'll get better over the years, but this is like, I'm no longer searching for something new. And I think I'm digging in deeper into what I'm already doing. Maybe that's a better way of saying what I'm trying to say. But on this new record, it's really been about like exploring space. So like room sounds and reverbs and, not like in the like super washed out, like shoegazy kind of reverb, but just like trying to create an atmosphere around the guitar. And so like putting up a lot of room mics and experimenting with distance on the close mics and things like that. And so I'm trying to find ways to recreate some of these feelings live. So my main thing was that I wanted to be able to control the mix of certain reverbs on the fly, but I also needed to save room on my pedal board. And so I started to just sort of research like how expression pedals work. And it's like literally in a lot of cases, it's just a TRS jack attached to a pot. So like there's no circuitry, it's just 3 wires. It's like, well, I can do that. Like I have a soldering iron, I'm pretty good at soldering, and so I can, good enough at it at least. So that's kind of what this thing is not something that you're going to rock on, but something that you can set something and leave it. So, yeah, so that's kind of what this is. I'm hoping that this is going to sort of the space that this is going to take on the pedal board and help sort of blend in some of those sounds. And then of course it's going to be through a wet, dry, wet, because it's got to be the whole thing. The whole thing with this sort of experimenting with space is that when you start to blend in these stereo effects, then all of a sudden you're not here with the guitar, you're in here. And if you close your eyes, you're sitting in the room, hopefully, if you do it right. And that's kind of what I want to try and create with the live rig. And so that's where this was born. It's just like, I'm not changing the world, not even a little bit, but it's just like, I was like, nobody really makes, and it's small. Like, it's one tiny little pot and and a tiny little jack. I can fit 2 of them in this little box. So why not? And so anyway, so it's like basically 2 separate expression pedals. And then, the idea is that the LEDs will kind of tell you where you're at.
I like the knobs, very Jesse Davy, big, like.
Well, and the thing is, because it's going to sit like this, not like this, I wanted it to be something that I could, with your foot, you can kind of do this. So it's not that, like, you're not going to use this for volume swells. I tried it out, and it's like a real quick way to give yourself carpal tunnel of the shin. So I'm not going to be doing that.
Look at this. Joey's already a triple threat, now quadruple.
No. I will never show you what the inside of this looks like. It's not good. It's not good.
Well, that's awesome, man. I mean, So was that like just something that is this the first time you've done this? Because I know that you're pretty handy. So like, is this the first time you've actually like had an idea, like, and then just went for it on like some sort of pedal circuit?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I have zero desire to like build pedals. Like, I think it's so far beyond what my actual capabilities are. Like, I can solder. I understand very basic circuitry, like from wiring pickups into my own guitars and making my own cables. Like, I understand on that level. But I mean, like, if somebody handed me a schematic and a circuit board, I couldn't do anything with that. Like, that's way over my head. So it's pretty simple. I mean, as far as I understand, a lot of our favorite pedal builders kind of start with that knowledge and they just build up. But I don't really want to go down that rabbit hole. Not saying that I really even believe that I could, but it's just not something that's like, this was just like, nobody's making this. I have this idea. I think it's going to work. And I think I could make it. Because it's like, all I need is a drill press, and not even. I mean, I used a hand drill. Who am I kidding? Like, I went out and was like, what is the diameter of these pots? And it's like 3/8 of an inch. So I went out and bought a 3/8 inch drill bit, and then you know what I mean. I don't even actually remember what the size was, but so this is just like a response to a need. And there was a company that was making like a little roller expression guy, but they went out of business. And I also wanted something super low profile. So this is probably going to fall apart and break. So,
and selfishly, I don't want you to get into making pedals because I want you to stick to doing your thing.
Yeah. I mean, and I think like I'd rather put my time into playing guitar and playing the organ and hopefully trying to finish songs. But
yeah. Hey, so let's talk about. Well, first of all, I want to talk about this covers EP thing that you did, because first and foremost, like. The fact that you did Lover, You Should Have Come Over, like that. I mean, that song is like one of the greatest songs probably ever written.
I 100% agree. Yeah.
And to like sing that tune, I was like, oh, damn, he's going for it, man. That is not an easy song to pull off, and you crushed it.
Thank you.
And then, I also love Theo, and you did that too. I'm just like, what is he doing? This is great. So was that just like pet project, just kind of like the undercover brother thing where you're like, I'm just going to do some covers and put it out?
Yeah, well, it started like, so my wife, Anna, she made a bunch of videos for the Bros. So we did like, the porch sessions. I think there was 2 songs. I can't remember now. Yeah, we did, Salvation Bound and, Master Plan. And they turned out really well. People responded to them really well. And it's like my favorite live content is always just the one shot, kind of like, even like the Wolfpack stuff where there's just one person on a camera just moving around. I kind of like if it's super produced, and like I what I like about those videos is it makes me feel like I'm there, and so we wanted to kind of capture. We didn't have any content like that. We wanted to do that, and Anna is an incredibly artistic person, both musically and visually, and she's super duper creative. So you know, and she's as long as I've known her, she's a really nice photographer. So it was like, well, you know, obviously like videography is a different vocation, but you have the vision for it, and you consume a ton of this kind of content. So what would it look like if you made these videos? And they just turned out really well. So during the pandemic, it was like, well, you know, I got nothing but time to kill, and let's go out. So it was actually her idea. Like, why don't you just pick some covers and we'll go, you know, the first two, the outdoor ones are across the river from our apartment at the legislature building. So that's where the provincial government meets and makes bad decisions about the pandemic. Brian Pallister, you should resign.
Shots fired.
There,
Shots fired.
I said it. But it's a really beautiful space, and it's a really, really nice spot. And so, yeah, we just kind of made them, and they turned out really well. And it was like the first tune, which was a band song, was like we spent all this time to set up and record the Theo tune. Was really just originally just this tune that we were going to do. And we took the time to get the shot, and then the light was really good. And Anna was like, "Do you have any other songs that you could play?" And I was like, "Well, there's this band tune that I like. I used to play back in the day. Like, let me pull up the lyrics and refresh." And then we played it through once. And it was like, "What do you think?" She was like, "Sounds pretty good to me." So that was kind of what. And then that wound up being like our favorite kind of video because the light was really good, and that kind of became the impetus for the video. So then when we did Lover, I was in here and we set up and played through the tune, and she got a good sort of camera angle, and was like, we could do it a million times and fuss over, you know, every time I listen to each of them, I hear like, I didn't quite make that note, or it was a little crap. But it was like the point is not to make a studio recording. The point is to make a live recording, and so it should be raw. And so so we kind of low key became the mission statement, was just like, let's just do it live, one take, one shot, that's it. Like no fancy stuff, no fancy mixing. Like we just got the sounds that sounded good and balanced them, and off they went. So I'm really proud of it. And it was like not something we thought super hard about. We just made something together. It was really fun.
Yeah, it seems like it was from the heart, you know, like that's what it's all about. And was it hard to choose tunes, or were you like, I know exactly what I want to do?
Well, I mean, the Twilight just kind of came up last minute. I've wanted to cover Plain Jane Heroine for a long time. That song just kind of got me. I started listening to that record in 2017, I think, and it was one of the records that I ran to, and I would always kind of get to the same spot on my run, and Plain Jane Heroine. That's, I mean, I guess I run the same speed. Plain Jane Heroine would come on, and then I would cry the rest of the way home, like listening to this tune, because there's just something about that lyric that just like it hits me right in the heart. And so that one I knew I wanted to cover. There's an Emily King tune that I've always wanted to do, and we might get around to doing it, but now with the baby, there's just like zero extra time. So, you know, when Joni gets a little bit older, we might be able to make a little bit more time to do that. But for right now, we're kind of both we're just maxed.
It's such a fun project, man. I kind of really appreciate and love when artists like you, or who else, like show and like pay homage to another artist, and like it's almost like, listen how great this song is. Like, here's my interpretation. This is how it makes me feel when I hear it, and like playing it. You probably like getting through a song like Lover, You Should Have Come Over, or Plain Jane Heroine is like almost like tumultuous emotionally too, because like they're heavy tunes, man.
Yeah.
Because like I feel the same way when I listen to Last Goodbye too. Like,
oh
man, that whole kiss me, please kiss me, out of desire, not obligation. That lyric is
obligation.
Oh my God.
What's the lyric?
That's that song.
Man, he sings so good on that record. It's crazy.
Yeah. And you know what's funny too, Joey, is like my wife and I have very different musical tastes. Like my wife is kind of more into like rootsy Americana, bluegrassy kind of stuff, which I am too, but like she does not like she will not listen to Pearl Jam. No. if it's on, and then now she's like changed my daughter. My daughter used to be a Pearl Jam fan, and now she's like, I don't want to listen to that. Put on Taylor Swift. I'm like, oh, what happened? But one day I came home from the grocery store and my wife like was listening to my vinyl copy of Grace.
Mm.
And I was like, like, oh my God.
Love with you, baby.
Yeah. But she
over again.
yeah, but she really likes Lover You Should Have Come Over. I'm like, of course you do. It's an amazing song.
It's such a good song, yeah.
And I wanted to ask you too, because we're gonna run out of time. I had so much I want to talk to you about. But for the new Bros record, so you put up that clip of you guys playing some funky ass stuff. And I was like, is this next record gonna be pretty funky? Because I could listen to a whole Brothers record that's super funky. Like,
yeah.
what's the vibe?
That's the funkiest it gets.
Okay.
And it's like we played a bunch of the stuff for the guys that are going to be in the band for this sort of next season, and the couple young guys. We're Roman Clark, who's been in my live band on the solo side, and then Liam Duncan, who's played keys with the Bros last year. Yeah. And so we're kind of mashing those two bands together. And Roman and Liam did some playing together in a band for a long time. They're both, about 10 years younger than Dave and I. And they know the Bros really well. They kind of came up listening to our first record. And I've been like this whole time just like, man, I'm so afraid because this record is a departure. There's some like new sounds, some new topics. Like so it's like, it's a bit of a different record. And they both listened to it and was like, this sounds like classic Bros to us. It was like, oh, really? So there is some funky stuff on there. There's definitely some funky moments, but it's kind of coming back to a little bit like I had a pretty big awakening last year around like what is my what is it that I really want to do with, because like the pandemic just sort of, I think a lot of us who are fortunate enough to not be hit by it, like literally hit, like, by the virus, but like those of us who are just kind of like sitting at home twiddling our thumbs, I think a lot of us kind of got to this place where like, well, I never thought I would have to take 2 years off of work, but here I am taking 2 years off of work. So I'm gonna do everything I can to really, maximize this time. And I kind of came out of it like going, so I burned out pretty hard at the end of 2019. Like I spent from about, like, realistically, I was on the road nonstop from 2014 until 2019. It was pretty heavy touring. And by the time we got to the end of the touring schedule in 2019, I was like, man, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And then the pandemic hit and it was like, well, you don't have to answer that question right now. You can take some time off. So the whole time it was like, what does the music that I like, what is the music that I want to make? It's not that I haven't been making the music that I want to make, but now is the time to kind of just explore. And this new record, I think, is an example of the music that is really kind of at the core of who I am. This is this music. And I'm really excited about it. I'm really, really excited about it.
Dude, I'm all in, man. I'm the first guy to jump out of a boat and yell, "Hey, I don't care. Throw whatever music you want at me. I like what you do." Like,
yeah.
It's like I say this all the time about Charlie Hunter, but he's that way. He reinvents himself every damn record.
Yeah.
Like it's not normal to hear Charlie put 2 records out that sound exactly the same. Like, you know what I mean?
The thing with a guy like Charlie is the common denominator. And so no matter what he does, if he puts out like a straight ahead standards record or he does a reggae record, it still is Charlie. And I think I'm just kind of like exploring my own kind of version of that. And just like, I'm not going to go, okay, I'll play a fuzzy slide solo here and I'm going to do, 6-part harmony on this section. We're just kind of going like, well, what does the song want to hear? And like for the first time in the history of all my records, it's like, shit, this song doesn't have any background vocals on it. Cause like I went into the booth to do it and sat down at this desk to sing all the harmonies and like everything I put down didn't work. guys, I think this song maybe has like just one harmony in the verse and like one part in the chorus. So it's like it's really kind of getting trying to stand out of our own way, because I think I definitely get into that, like people expect a certain thing from me, so I want to make sure that I do that thing. And thing is right now that thing is not lighting me up. Like playing loud fuzzy guitar solos, slide guitar solos, really not firing me up for whatever reason. And I will get back to that. I know that I will have a moment where I go, man, I just want to turn up my amp and rock out. But right now it's kind of coming back to something a little bit different. So I think I don't know, I'm really excited. I think people are going to like it. I mean, there's still great guitar moments. It's not like there's not great guitar moments, but I don't know. It's fun.
I think we'll all benefit from that fact that you are doing what you are passionate about right now. It doesn't need to be guitar solos, but like whatever is making you smile on stage and you happy will in turn make the audience happy and into what's going on. You know what I mean?
I think so. And I hope so. And I'm confident that it will, because that's kind of the thing that has allowed my brother and I to have a career in the first place, was that like it or lump it, we make this sound. And like in the early days of the Bros, I've talked about this a bajillion times in interviews before, but like people told us, you guys are great, but if only it was like this, it would be better. I was like, well, we don't do that. I would love to do, like, the thing was always like, at the time the Black Keys were really big. So it was like, your records are too clean. We want something dirtier. Like, listen to this Black Keys record. It's like, what about this record and my record makes you think that this record should be that record? They're just like, it's literally like going, hey, banana, you should really be a cucumber. Like, that's not going to happen. Avocado, maybe. I feel like a banana is just a savory avocado.
A banana
sweet
is a delicious treat.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I'm yammering, mostly just because I haven't seen another person outside of my bubble.
Well, dude, no, I feel like, well, first of all, how is Dave? Is Dave doing all right?
He's doing great. He's doing
Everybody's
so.
healthy. Tell him I said hello, man.
I will.
So I think that it's funny because there's so much expectation probably from labels and especially like when you guys are young and you're trying to pitch this record, which is from start to finish. I mean, I told you, man, that album will forever be like a desert island album because it makes me feel a specific way. And it reminds me of, I'll tell you exactly. I mean, I think about it a lot this summer in particular because my kid finally went back to camp, like summer camp. And it was just like a day camp. But like the summer that I discovered that record before I got to know you, Let It Lie, I listened to it every time I went to pick her up. And it's 15 minutes away, 15 minutes there, 15 minutes back. And that's all we listened to the whole summer. So like I think about those times of being in the car with my daughter. And she's in kindergarten and she's like singing the words and we're like,
so cool.
You know what I mean? So like for me, it like totally makes me feel fuzzy inside when I think about that record because the music's great, but also because I had this connection in my life.
It's that time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah. So I mean,
I think with music, like obviously it needs to be commercialized. Otherwise we can't pay our rent with it, but it's not like, at the risk of, I don't know. It's not supposed to be monetized, like not really. And so when people are trying to tell you how you should change the thing that you do so that it'll sell more records, it's like it defeats the purpose. Like at the heart of it, yeah, I understand. Like it's capitalism. We got to participate in it. It's just the way that the world is. But at the end of the day, like when somebody says you'll sell more records if you do this, I'll go, well, I guess I won't sell that many records then because I'm just not interested. This is not an easy job to do. This is not an easy way to make a living. I do it because I love it and I believe in it. And if I wanted to make more money, I would do something else. It's just plain and simple. And I'm happy, I'm happy that this works out and I can have a family and we bought a house and it's all good. But all that to say, it's a special thing to get to do, and it's not it's something that I really, really value in a very deep way. But all that to say,
and I can tell you guys don't take it for granted a day of your life. I can tell. I mean, even if you get burned out, like that happens to everybody, dude. Like that's the story. But like you can tell that the people that are really truly in it and for the passion of the art, like, for lack of a better way to describe it, I don't want to be cheesy, but like,
Yeah.
you can tell you guys don't take it for granted, man. You really are like super all in on it. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's my favorite thing about bands that are like together and in it for the right reasons. Well, yeah, Mario popped up from the chord choice to the melody to the lyrics to vocal inflections. Music never fails to inspire. Do you find yourself aiming for perfection or striving for completion when making music? That's a question.
That's a great question. I definitely spent a lot of my life aiming for perfection. Um, but it's kind of a journey versus destination kind of thing. For me, I really realized like the beauty, even in practicing, is working on something that you love. And um, I I I kind of lost interest in trying to work on something because I wanted to be the best person who did that thing. And now I find myself working more towards making something that just lights me up, you know? And so I really follow my nose creatively. You know, if I hear something that I really love on a record and I want to know how to play it, I learn it. Um, if I, hear something um, in a Bach chorale and I'm like, man, I want to know what that looks like on the guitar, I go and I learn it. Um, but it's always like when I work on something, it's always just to improve my own fluency so that I can better express myself. And I love a lot of killer players, but for me, what makes me excited about making music is just the creative, um, the thrill of creating. Either spontaneously or in an arranged fashion. But I think I talked about it on a Karate in the Garage, so maybe some of the folks in here might have seen that. But I had this moment where like a video popped up from a show that we had played in New York City, and I remember being so anxious like the whole day. New York is it's one of my favorite places to play, and it's always the most nervous that I am,
Really?
just because New York is just like, especially for a guy from a small Canadian city, like who I never thought I would ever even go to New York, let alone like play sold out shows there. So there's always this like pressure for some stupid reason. And I'm like, from trying to find parking to carrying my gear into the whole day, I was stressed out. And we played the show and I was so in my head. I had such a shitty time at the show, and I was just like something that I never do is walk out of a show, but like I packed up my gear and I walked out. I took like 10 minutes before I went to the merch table because I was just like, I just need to cool off because I'm so in my head over this. And I remember how bad I felt, and I felt bad about that show for days. And then this video popped up from somebody had taken and posted, and I watched and I was like, oh, man, we sound great. Like the band sounds great. I'm playing great. I'm singing great. Like I was so in my head for whatever reason that I missed the opportunity to love that show. And like I think the pandemic and a little bit of space has allowed me to have a little more patience and love for myself to go like, hey, I actually fuck man, I think you're a pretty good guitar player. Like, you know, instead of beating on myself so hard, like, oh, you missed this change, or you played on top, or you went for something vocally and you didn't get there, and you shouldn't have taken that risk. Instead of doing that stuff, I just find myself now just like, man, it's all about that stuff. It's all about that stuff. Those are the special moments. Those aren't the moments to mourn. Those are the moments to celebrate. That's the thing that makes me me. You know, I went for it. That's the thing I should be pumped about. I shouldn't care that I didn't make it. I think also like having a kid has changed that, because I'm like, I want her to take risks. I want you to I want you to be safe, and I don't want you to talk to strangers, but like I want her to do stuff that's going to take her out of her comfort zone and make her grow. And those are the things that I'm criticizing myself for. I don't know. Again, I feel like I'm going on a tangent here, but that is just it's a great question, and it deserves some attention.
Dude, it's
Because
just two dads talking, man. I mean, that's what this is. I think having a kid does change a lot, man. It definitely makes you realize a lot about your self-focused, like how self-focused you can be too as a musician
yeah.
with all your stuff. And then you're like, oh, okay, so it's not about me. And then you start to realize all the things that you can let go. I think like if there's something that I've learned through this pandemic, because I've had my own struggles in the past year, and we all have, you know, had our own mental struggles with like, oh God, I'm so sick of this. Like, but I think my wife told me this. She was reading this book, and there was this thing about saying, "Oh well," and you know, and sometimes you have to do that. And I definitely have been adopting that. Like, if there's stuff that's like, if it's in my day job, or if it's like, if I do hit a wrong note, whatever, I'm just like, oh well, like, you know, that's not the end of my, it's not the end of my world. It's a no well thing, you know. And
It's kind of crazy though that that's a conversation that you have to have with yourself. Like, what kind of messed up idea do we have of what we're supposed to be doing if making a mistake is something like, for me, what kind of messed up idea do I have of myself if I can't forgive myself for having a tough show, and I beat myself up over it for days, you
oh
know?
man,
And that's just like, I think the pandemic has really been a blessing for me to get that perspective, because when you're in it and your head is down and your nose is on the grindstone, you're working, you lose sight of all that stuff. And I just feel like I'm going to have a hard time taking my job for granted, you know? And I love that oh well thing. It just like, it makes me feel like parenthood totally, like, um,
are you talking about the movie Parenthood with
no, just the act of parenthood.
Oh.
being dad. Just like the other day, you know, Joni is in a spot where she's too big for size 1 diapers, but she's a little too small for size 2 diapers, and so they're always kind of moving around. And so, like, you know, you get a finger in and just readjust the back part of the diaper, and I go whoop, and I'm like, oh, why's my finger wet? Oh, it's human shit. And in that moment, the reason I laughed when you said that, because I just went, oh well.
Dude, I remember changing diapers, and like, sometimes you gotta, a turd falls off, you gotta pick it up and put it in the diaper. Like, you just have to do some stuff.
Our turds are not that solid yet. They're still mostly liquid, but I mean, all of these little things, like, they are just so humbling and beautiful. And I feel like, yeah, being a dad is actually doing wonders for my musicianship, because it's just like, I mean, there's so much joy and playfulness in being a new parent, but then, you know, also just that perspective of like, I have human excrement on my hand and I'm okay with it. It's like, oh my God, she's so cute and I love her so much, and I'm just gonna go wash it off. It's fine. I put it on my nose. I went to smell it, and I followed through too far and put the poop on my nose.
You're brown nose, buddy. That's
fine. It was fine.
I just want to give a shout out. So thank you, Pat. We got some super chats here. Chivalry again. Mario's coming in. NYC loves you, buddy. You're good.
Thank you. I that experience was very illuminating, and I'm really excited to come back to New York and put on another show. Yeah. Even if it's not a good show, I'm excited to do it. There's another one here from about 10 minutes ago, or no, 3. Yeah, that's the one. Can you tell me your one guitar, pedal, and amp Desert Island? Oh, I hate this question. Hate it. I love, like, I am my 4. I have 4 guitars that are my favorites, and it's the Gold Top, the Collings, the Josh Williams, and then my Green Sir, like yours.
I sold that.
You sold it.
I'm sorry. I sold my Joey Caster, but it was for a good reason. I sold both of my Sirs, and I got this.
Yeah, yeah. What year is that?
This is a Wildwood 10 Fender Custom Shop 61.
Oh,
yeah, dude. It plays. Right. Oh God, dude, it plays so good. And like, honestly, man, I turned 42 this past year, this summer. And what? Yeah, I'm an old fart, dude.
No, I would say I would like late 20s. If it wasn't for the fact that I know that you have like a kid, a 10-year-old, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a 42-year-old man in a Ben Folds 5 t-shirt, bro. That's how I roll. But,
girl.
But yeah, so sorry. Anyway, so I sold that guitar.
Yeah. So yeah, to answer that question, it's hard because those guitars are just like, I love him. But I mean, honestly, my gold top is my number one. And I would hate to leave any of those other guitars behind, but I would make sure that they could go to a good home if I had to go live on a desert island for the rest of my life. Amp, uh, I don't know.
What about your old Super? The brown Super. That be it?
The Super is great. The Super is great, but it doesn't have reverb. I need reverb. You know what? I'm going to be totally self-serving. The new amp that we're working on with Two Rock, that would be the one.
Yeah, I know. It's when I had Eli on last, it might have been January. He was like, he kind of like mentioned it, and I was like, what? What? What?
Yeah.
Here's another question for you. Were there artists that helped you develop the style that you currently possess, my friend?
Oh, like absolutely.
Rye.
Yeah. I mean, I think like it's a long list, but yeah, the people that come to mind are like, oh man, it also changes too. But in terms of as a guitar player, I feel like my guitar playing is heavily influenced by Ry Cooder, like the Sacred Steel guys, the Derek Truxisms, the Sacred Steel stuff, Aubrey Gent, the Campbell brothers. That's a sound I love and am constantly in search of. Yeah, those would probably be the ones. I mean, like in terms of, I think he was saying like space and stuff. That is, I not maybe not necessarily something that I picked up literally from like transcribing someone's solos and going, oh, take a breath here, but just trying to be conscious of what I'm playing and what I'm saying. And I think there's lots of players that I have gotten inspiration from, listening to people. I remember Stevie Ray talking about like, I'll stop playing every time I need to take a breath, and you'd watch videos of him and he would go, and I think that's a pretty cool thing too. But yeah.
What do you think about what's your honest opinion on Sob Rock? Did you listen to that whole record?
I did. I really like a lot of it, and some of it doesn't sit with me as well. But I mean, I feel like every John Mayer record, like I am a massive John Mayer fan. I will always be. And every one of his records is like, I love, 85, 90% of it. And then there's 10% of it that I'm like, whatever. But I mean, like, I feel like, criticizing someone else's art is like a tough thing to do, and it's a bold thing to do, because who am I to say like what's honest and what's not honest? It's not fair. I will say though, like Last Train Home, love that tune.
It's too short. I want
it
it to be like another minute long.
Listening or something, but the one with Blue in the title, I really, really love. The second single is killer. Like I feel like the places that he absolutely nailed it, he nailed. I mean, again, I'm not being critical. It's just like this, the stuff that I feel he nailed, he just nailed, like just poof out of the park.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't like the rare occasions I listen to my own records. There are songs that I skip. So with all due respect, I don't even listen to my own music all the way through. So, I mean, to be honest, I hate all my own music, but that's a conversation for another time.
I mean, I think that it's in the quarantine world. Like I started to kind of like see if I could go down a couple rabbit holes to find some music that I maybe wasn't aware of on my own. Because you know how sometimes like your friends will be like, "Hey, have you heard this?" And you're like, "No," and then you listen to it and you're like, "Whoa, I'm now a massive fan."
Yeah.
I heard Colin Hayes like solo stuff. You know Colin Hay?
No.
He's the singer from Men at Work.
Did you send me a record of his or something?
I might have.
Somebody might have sent me that record.
I might have, but because I was like sending it to all my friends, like when I heard it, because I'm like, "Have you heard this? Have you heard this?" But like his voice is so beautiful. And like I remember Men at Work of like, you know, Who Could It Be Now and like Land Down Under and stuff like that. But like, man, he's got some absolutely gorgeous solo work.
Oh, that's
Like,
cool.
I mean, I would check him out because he's got a lot of stuff. But like, yeah, I mean, it's hard to, for me, it's, and maybe you might find this as you get more into dadhood, but like, it's harder for me to find new music now for some weird reason. Like, I don't know why.
I have a really hard time listening to music. I have kind of always had a hard time listening to music. I think as soon as I started making records, I just like I have a hard time not like critically listening to things. I have a hard time not listening to something and going like, oh, I wish I'd have done that, you know. And I've always struggled like, but the records that stick through, those are ones that are like, you know, the like Emily King and Jacob Collier and Corey Henry and oh man, Nathaniel Rateliff, like the last record he put out, like that is just like there's that kind of stuff. It's like I could never be that, and so I can't. I can just listen to it freely, and it's not like I listen to every record with FOMO, but it's just like I have a hard time listening to things. I think also just because there's so much music in my life all the time, and so like when it's time for me to sort of sit down and be quiet, like I you know, I hang out with Anna, we watch Netflix, I listen to talk radio like a lot.
I do
Just
too, man.
this is your Friday drive at 5. That's like that's my shit. Oh man, I forgot to
Yeah, the pedal.
Desert Island Pedal. You know what, today, my friend, it is the Chase Bliss Therme. That's what it is.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I freaking love that thing because it can be a normal delay pedal and then it can just freak out.
Yeah.
I like that thing. We used it a lot on the new record, like doing its weird pitch shifty thing, but also just doing normal delays and just using it to enhance the room sounds and stuff. And
yes. Well, I don't want to keep you, so we can cut here. I mean, I could talk to you for 3 hours, buddy, but like,
likewise.
Gotta let you get back to your family. But hey, one more time, we're gonna do the lightning round get down because now it's now it's perfected in a way. And I have the last question is gonna be fun because you didn't get to do the last question the first time because you were my first show. I didn't know what the hell I was doing at that time. But
man,
you know the drill.
I know the drill.
You will survive this. Okay. So, and I changed the first question because we're not gonna do Lennon and McCartney again. We're gonna do Sgt. Pepper or Abbey Road.
Abbey Road.
Okay. Silicon Valley or Big Bang Theory?
Big Bang Theory.
Waffle or curly fries?
Waffle.
Pampers or Huggies?
Oh man, both. We'll talk about that another time. Yeah.
Okay. All right. In the world of brothers bands, Avett Brothers or Wood Brothers?
Wood Brothers. Sorry, Avets.
MIDI rig or tap dance?
MIDI rig.
Okay. All right, and then you have to tell me if this is correct for Canadians. Is it Toronto or Toronto?
Oh, it's Toronto. There's no hard T in. Yeah.
Okay.
Hard T.
Horseshoes or bocce ball?
Horseshoes.
All right. Wes or Grant Green?
Oh, I'm gonna have to say Wes, but I love Grant Green.
Okay. All right. And then final question. This is the newest one for you. Okay. So if you could take one album and erase it from your memory so you've never heard it before, just so you could go back and experience it for the first time again, what album would that be?
Okay. It's a toss up between two records. I'm just gonna say D'Angelo Voodoo.
Okay.
I would listen to it again for the first time. Oh all God, right. Yeah.
So what was the toss up? Because I want to see between
the Live 2000.
Okay.
Do you know that record?
Oh yeah. You told me about that on our first lesson, and I went out and bought it immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, I just like the way he plays on that is just so adventurous and so fun, and doesn't remind me of anybody other than him. So yeah, I would listen to it. But yeah, D'Angelo Voodoo, man, that.
Yeah, that.
Do
Do you know what's funny about that too? Is I had a moment when I had Charlie Hunter on here. We were talking. I like picked up the vinyl. I was like, I have to talk to you about how you ended up playing on this. And he was like, man, everybody in your age demographic always wants to know. Like that album is so like important to so many people. I'm like, yeah, okay, so let's talk about how you ended up. And then I was like, yeah, it's crazy to think about like D'Angelo played drums on a bunch of stuff. And he's like, no, he didn't. That was all Quest. And I was like, no, he's credited as playing drums on like Untitled and stuff. So I don't know if the credit is wrong, but if D'Angelo played a bunch of drums on that, which the credit said he did, that's crazy. Like
that would be insane. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I feel like it really does sound like it's like, but I mean, like I didn't know Charlie was on that bunch until somebody was like, oh yeah, these songs are not Pino. This is this Charlie Hunter guy. And I was like, wait, he's playing guitar and bass at the same time like that? What a bastard. I've never like I know Charlie a tiny bit, and we crossed paths one time in London, and I like we hung out for like 10 minutes. He was in town playing with somebody else and was like, man, you guys are in London? I'm gonna come to your show. And he literally showed up for like the last 4 songs, and then we hung out for like 5 minutes, and then and then he had to go to the airport. So that's the only time I've actually ever seen him in person. We talked on the phone one time, and but I was like, don't ask him about voodoo. Don't ask him about voodoo. one day I might be brave enough to ask him about it.
This guy did.
Come on.
But I had to, man. I'm like, when am I ever going to have a chance to talk to this cat? You know what I mean? Like, and he can, and it turned out fine. Like we had a good time, and afterwards he's like, this was really fun,
Yeah. But, he's a wonderful guy. He's just
I feel like he's so giving, and I like the fact right now that he's totally like reinventing what he wants to do. Like he told me, he's like, if I could, man, I would just play drums the rest of my career.
He's a good drummer.
Yes.
Like it's no surprise. But I feel like, there's this generation of players like in his age bracket that half of them are complaining about how the music industry is changing. And while everybody else, not that Charlie's all that much older than us, but he's like, a tier beyond. I mean that with nothing but respect and love, Charlie. But while everybody else is complaining about Spotify this and music industry that, Charlie's just out there doing his thing. And I just I envy him because he does everything with this youthful fervor, and I want to be Charlie Hunter. Like I love his vibe. He plays so well. Oh man, I love the way that he plays. I love how he plays bass. Love how he plays guitar. I love how he plays drums. I'm such a big fan. I really want to put together like pie in the sky dream is to put together like a super band with Charlie and then somebody else, I don't know, somebody wicked playing drums, and then I'll just sit there and watch him rehearse.
Dude, I told you, I talked to him when I talked to you and Dave about doing that quarantine jam, that minute thing.
Yes.
He was gonna play drums on it. So if we still want to do it, I can talk to him.
He said he would. I love it. Yeah. He would. I'll play Hammond.
Yeah. All right, dude. Well, man, thank you. It's so good to see you. I feel like it's been too long, and thank you again for doing this. And thank you so much for like, you helped me launch this thing, and I had no clue I would be doing this long. And it's like totally held everything together musically for me, as far as like, like staying busy and finding joy, because I think there's a lot of reasons these days to have the joy sucked out. And finding the ways to say oh well, to not let that happen, is what I'm all about right now.
So. Yeah, well, thanks for asking me to be a part of it, and I'm sure we'll talk before then, but let's do this again next year. When the show is in its 6th season and it's 2 years old.
Yeah, man. All right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for the super chats. You guys are wonderful people. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed to this channel. These happen every week. I have Mike Dawes is on this Saturday morning. We're going to find out why he does magic the way he does it with the guitar. But otherwise, hang out and say hello. Stop by. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We'll see you next time.
Later, skaters.